Hey there! Welcome to the very first episode of the Rhino tutorial series for beginners. I'm Hossein, and I'm here to guide you step by step through the world of digital design and the Rhino environment. So in this episode, we're going to lay down a super strong foundation for our journey ahead. We'll explore why Rhino thinks differently and how we can work with it. Our goal isn't just to learn the tools. Oh no. We want to understand the logic behind each tool and how to think like a digital designer. This series, titled Rhino for Absolute Beginners Complete Guide, is broken down into 4 parts, right? And it's designed to help you grasp those essential Rhino concepts in a super simple and practical way. Each part is set up to flow together, creating a complete and cohesive learning path. So, part 1, that's all about getting familiar with digital design logic and the Rhino environment. Then, part 2 dives into those precise and fundamental drawing commands. Part 3, that's where you'll be modeling surfaces and volumes. And finally, part 4 takes you through building a complete project from scratch to the final model. By the end of this course, you'll be able to confidently navigate the Rhino environment, do some accurate modeling, and really cultivate that mindset of a true digital designer. All right, so before we dive into the software, let's take a moment to chat about the history of computers in architecture, yeah? It's super interesting to see how these tools evolved and why today programs like Rhino are really, really important. Okay, so think about it, right? Since the emergence of CAD, or computer-aided design, back in the 1960s, the whole game of design and architecture has totally flipped. I mean, back then, computers were mainly used for complex structural calculations and drawing 2-dimensional plans. Can you believe that? Architects still relied heavily on traditional hands-on methods for their designs. But then, as software like AutoCAD developed in the 70s and 80s, it became possible to take those design ideas from paper and bring them into the digital realm. It's wild. This transformation totally ramped up design accuracy, made editing designs way easier, and, get this, it seriously sped up project execution. When we hit the 90s, right, that's when 3D modeling, it totally crashed into the architecture scene. Software such as 3ds Max, ArchiCAD, and SketchUp, they gave architects this insane chance to experience volume and space in a 3-dimensional environment. I mean, they didn't just see the plans anymore. They could actually visualize the forms and the whole spatial experience. This period was like the launch pad for a fresh, creative, and flexible approach to design. It totally equipped architects with tools to go beyond just basic drafting and create these super complex forms. In the 2000s, parametric and algorithmic design totally burst onto the architecture scene, right? And you've got these software programs like Grasshopper for Rhino that let designers create these super organic and complex forms. I mean, imagine this. You change one parameter and boom, all related changes just happen across the whole model automatically. How wild is that? And at the same time, we saw this whole new concept called BIM, or Building Information Modeling, come into play. It's like it manages all the info for architectural and construction projects in one seamless system. Super cool, right? It makes collaboration between engineers and architects way easier and way more precise. So, nowadays, Rhino is totally one of those software tools that gives you super high precision, right? And it's got this amazing flexibility and parametric design capabilities all at once. I mean, you can design everything from conceptual forms to super detailed execution models with this software. How wild is that? Rhino lets you have this creative freedom and precise control together. And, with tools like Grasshopper, it opens up this whole world of patterns and complex forms for you. All right, so let's dive into this comparison. Yeah, we're talking about Rhino versus SketchUp and 3ds Max, right? So first things first, Rhino isn't as straightforward as SketchUp. I mean, SketchUp is all about speed and ease of use, you know? It's perfect for those quick designs and simple conceptual models. But if you're looking to create super complex forms or do some precise engineering design, SketchUp kind of hits a wall there. Now, on the flip side, Rhino isn't as heavy and complicated as 3ds Max. Like, 3ds Max has these incredible tools for rendering, animation, and visual effects, right? But man, learning it takes time. And if you're someone who wants to do precise engineering design, it might feel a bit overwhelming and intricate. So, yeah, each has its strengths and weaknesses depending on what you need. All right, so here's the deal with Rhino, right? It's like this amazing bridge between two worlds of design. You've got that super precise engineering and control over your models, but also this incredible freedom to create these complex organic forms. So in simple terms, Rhino lets you be both exact and creative at the same time. To really get it, we could show a comparison chart of accuracy versus flexibility, which would totally show where Rhino stands compared to SketchUp and 3ds Max. And just to spice it up, we could show a quick model example so you can see how you can create with Rhino like precise yet free. So in a nutshell, Rhino isn't too simple or limiting, and it's definitely not overly complicated or heavy. It's this flexible, powerful tool for digital design, especially for those who want to think both like an engineer and an artist. All right, so one of the key points about Rhino is that everything is built on NURBS. You know, to really grasp the advantage here, we should compare it quickly to mesh modeling. So mesh is made up of polygons, right? And it's fine for rendering and gaming, but oh man, it's got low precision and tweaking shapes. Super tough. Now on the flip side, NURBS is defined by mathematical relationships, which allows for the creation of super precise and flexible curves and surfaces. The cool thing about NURBS compared to mesh is that it can create those intricate forms without losing any quality. Plus, it dynamically applies changes and has high accuracy for parametric design and real-world manufacturing. In this part, when you adjust the control points and parameters, you can see how the shape transforms smoothly and accurately. That's the main power of parametric design in Rhino. All right, so one of the super cool features of Rhino, right, is using tools like Grasshopper and Python to totally automate your design processes. Those repetitive and time-consuming tasks, like drawing lines or making the same changes to multiple elements, can be done with just a few lines of code in seconds. How wild is that? And Python in Rhino, besides automation, opens up this whole new world of parametric design. You can write rules that let the forms change based on parameters. Combining Python with Grasshopper really boosts your design power and creates a playground for crafting complex and smart forms. Okay, so let's dive into the practical lessons, shall we? What you're seeing right now is the main interface of the Rhino software, right? And oh my gosh, when you first open it, it might look a bit crowded and complicated, but trust me, it's really quite simple and totally understandable. You just need to connect with the environment and gradually get to know each part. Especially if you've worked with Autodesk programs like AutoCAD or even SketchUp before, you might feel a bit out of place at first, but don't worry. You'll get used to it super fast and everything will be just fine for you. Now the first practical step, creating a new file and setting the project's units. This is one of the very important steps to start working, because the project's units are the foundation for all measurements and the accuracy of your model. If the units are not chosen correctly, your model may be built at the wrong scale or encounter problems later on. Setting the project unit. The first thing we need to do is set the project unit. You can do this in various ways, but the simplest way is when creating a new file. When you click on New File, Rhino asks you two things. One, project type, small object or large object. Small object. This option is suitable for projects with small dimensions like industrial products, furniture, or small-scale models. Large object. This option is used for projects with large dimensions like buildings, facades, or architectural sites. This choice actually helps Rhino set the appropriate initial scale and modeling accuracy for your project. 2. Project unit. Meter, centimeter, millimeter, or preferred unit. Choosing the unit may not seem very important at first, but when you want to work with other files, collaborate on a project group, or get executable outputs for printing, laser cutting, and printing, it becomes significant. After selecting these two items and creating the file, the project environment is ready to start working. Okay, so like changing the unit after you've built your project, right? It's totally possible, even after you've done all that work. So here's what you do. First, you type options in the command line and hit enter. Got it? Then, in that window that pops up, you go to the units section. Super easy. Now, here's the important part. If your project has already been drawn or modeled, Rhino's going to ask you a couple of things like, do you want just the unit to change? Or do you want me to scale all the objects according to the new unit as well? Personally, I always go for the second option. I mean, who wants to mess with the scale, right? You want everything to line up perfectly and keep that precision intact. It's just so much smoother that way. All right, so let's dive into the Rhino environment and its user interface. Yeah? Like the Rhino screen is packed with all these different sections and tools, right? Each of them has a specific role to play. And once you get familiar with them, I promise you, moving around and designing in the software becomes like a total breeze. Seriously. It's just a matter of getting to know your surroundings and then you're good to go. All right, so like up at the top, there's this nav bar, right? And it gives you access to pretty much all the tools and plugins you install. It's laid out kind of like most software, so it's not too complicated, you know? For instance, in the File tab, you've got options like New, Open, Save, Save As, Import, and Export. I mean, these are pretty standard, like you've seen them in other programs. Just give them a try, and you'll quickly figure out what each one does. It's super intuitive, honestly. All right, so like down here, right, we've got the command line. You can actually type all your commands here, like all of them. So if you want to draw a line, all you got to do is type in polyline and hit enter. Boom. Line created. But wait, there's more. That's not the only way to access commands, you know? A lot of the popular ones, like polyline, are also just chilling in the toolbar tab. We'll definitely dive into that later. How cool is that? Okay, so like right here underneath the command line, yeah, you've got these docked panel tabs, right? And they've got all these panels like layers, properties, render, display. You know, it's super handy. They give you quick access to all these tools and settings, and you can just like switch between them like super easily. All right, so like over here on the left side of your screen, you've got this thing called the toolbar, right? It's just like hanging out there by default, which is super convenient. But hey, you can totally switch up where it is and how it looks if you want. This toolbar is where all your drawing, editing, and like super useful commands chill out. Seriously, you're going to be using it a lot in the upcoming lessons. And guess what? That polyline command? Yep, it's right there too. So depending on what's easiest for you, you can totally choose between the toolbar or the command line. All right, so let's talk about viewports, right? One of the most crucial parts, seriously, is the viewports. Each viewport gives you a specific view of your model, and guess what? You can have multiple views at the same time. How awesome is that? This feature makes working on your model super precise, totally manageable, and like really fast. Now let's break down the main types of viewports, yeah? So, perspective. This is your 3D view, kind of like what you see with your own eyes, you know? Perfect for presentations and checking out those forms. Hue, top plan. This one's from above, like a map, right? It's ideal for drawing lines and placing objects in your layout. Hue, front/elevation. This view is from the front, super helpful to nail down height and details of the facade. Hue, right, side. Oh, and this one's from the side. Great for keeping an eye on depth and those length measurements. Okay, so like if you double click on the name of any viewport, you can totally see it full screen, right? And then like if you double click again, it goes back to the 4-view setup. Pretty neat, huh? Working with multiple viewports at the same time really helps you like check out your model from different angles and spot any scale, symmetry, or connection issues super quickly. You can also change how each viewport displays, like between wireframe, shaded, rendered, ghosted, and X-ray, which is like super handy for adjusting how you view your model. Plus, you can customize each viewport individually, like switching the front view to back or changing the perspective view to isometric. When you're working with the mouse in the viewports, right, in those 2D views, like plans and elevations, you can just right-click to pan around the page. Super simple. Now in 3D views, like perspective, that right-click becomes your orbit tool. You can spin the form around and check it out from different angles. How neat is that? And if you want to pan in 3D, all you got to do is hold Shift and right-click, then move it around to shift the view. Easy peasy. So, with a bit of practice and watching these parts, you'll get the hang of Rhino in no time, and you'll be ready to create your own lines, curves, and 3D shapes. How exciting is that? All right, so let's dive into the status bar and those tools at the bottom of the screen in Rhino, yeah? This bar down there, it's super important, like really crucial, because it gives you quick access to all those handy tools you use all the time, right? Learning this part is going to like totally boost your speed and precision in design like a million times over. Okay, so like let's talk about this thing called OSNAP, right? It's one of the most important tools on the status bar. So when OSNAP is on, your mouse like totally snaps to these key points on objects, you know, like end, mid, center, and all that jazz. Super handy. You can totally choose to turn any of these options on or off whenever you want. All right, so let's break this down, okay? End. This is like the starting or ending point of a line or object, right? So picture this. When you want to connect a line perfectly to the end of another line, this option, super handy. And then there's nearest. This one's all about getting to the closest point on an object. Picture this, you're placing a point or line super close to an existing object. It's all about precision. Mid. Now this one's about finding the middle of a line or object. Imagine trying to find the center point of a wall or a line so you can draw a new one like So Essential. Center. Here's where it gets interesting. This pinpoints the center of a circle or an ellipse. You could like draw a circle on top of another circle or measure from the center. Pretty neat, huh? Quadrant. Think of this as one of the 4 main points on a circle or ellipse like top, bottom, left, right. So you could draw a line straight toward the right half of the circle. Intersection. This one shows you where 2 objects meet. So when 2 lines or curves cross paths and you want to find that exact intersection point. All right, so let's break this down, yeah? So when we talk about perpendicular, right, it's like finding a point on an object where a line drawn to that object is totally like straight up and down. For example, you know, drawing a line that is like exactly vertical against a wall. Then we've got tangent. This one's interesting. It's finding a point on a circle or curve where a line drawn is just like touching the curve without crossing it, you know? So you draw a line or curve that just skims the existing curve. Super cool. Now here's the kicker. When OSNAP is turned off, like, oh man, starting a line accurately can become really tough, almost impossible, right? Okay, so like ortho, right? It totally limits your mouse movement to like 90-degree angles. So when it's like activated, every line you draw is like exactly horizontal or vertical. I mean, seriously, this is super useful, especially for plans and architectural lines. All right, so like, here's the deal, right? This tool, it totally decides which plane your drawings are going to be on, you know? Like, is it going to be X, Y, Y, Z, or ZX? So when you're sketching out a plan, you can like totally trust that all your lines are going to be like perfectly aligned on the right surface. So like Gumball, right? It's this super cool tool that lets you move, rotate, and resize objects like right on the model without any of those complicated commands, you know? It's basically like having a remote control for the objects themselves. Makes design work like way faster and way more precise. All right, so let's break this down, yeah? We've got grid snap and smart track, right? So like grid snap, it's all about making your lines perfectly align on the grid. I mean, how cool is that? And then there's smart track, which, oh man, it creates these helper lines that totally help you draw more precisely. Like when you have a few lines perfectly stacked on top of each other, these tools are just a game changer, you know? It's like having a little assistant right there with you, making sure everything is just spot on. All right, so like here's the deal with the status bar and those tools at the bottom in Rhino, right? You've got OSNAP, Ortho, Plan, Gumball, Grid Snap, and Smart Track. And like learning how each one works is totally key. It's going to make your modeling like super fast, precise, and totally controlled, you know? Like, all right, so like here we are, right? We've totally gone over the essential foundations of Rhino, and it's been like super enlightening. First off, we figured out how Rhino thinks differently, you know, and why it's like super crucial for digital design and parametric modeling. The history of the software and the evolution of digital tools in architecture really helped us like gain a better perspective on the whole philosophy of design in a 3D environment. All right, so like let's dive into the Rhino interface, yeah? First up, we've got the nav bar and menus, right? They're super handy for accessing files, settings, and plugins. Pretty neat. Then there's the command line where you can just type in commands directly. Like, how cool is that? And, oh, don't forget the docked panels and toolbar. They give you all those essential drawing and editing tools right at your fingertips. Super efficient, I'd say. Now, the viewports, you can work with multiple views at the same time. Like, whoa. You can display wireframe, shaded, rendered views, and even change your perspective. It's like magic. And finally, there's the status bar with those tools at the bottom of the screen, like OSNAP, Ortho, Gumball, Grid Snap. They let you control everything with precision and speed. It's just like the ultimate design experience. All right, so here's the deal. By practicing these sections, you're totally set to create your very first 3D models in Rhino. Like, how exciting is that? You'll be using the basic features of the software in no time. Now, in the next part, we're diving into the main modeling and drawing tools. We're going to sketch lines, curves, and build simple volumes, stepping boldly into the world of practical design. And hey, if you're keen to keep this educational journey rolling and want to stay updated on the next sections, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up too, so you always have access to the lessons like right at your fingertips. Hey, thank you so much for sticking with me all the way to this point. So until the next video, just remember to